Come over here. Fresh vegetables.
When I'm working here in the wintertime, you think, jeepers, really? You know, look at all the plants in the snow about 2 or 3 feet deep outdoors, you know, and after a while you have to turn on the fan maybe to cool it off because it's too hot and you can't believe it. And you maybe just left home and you're wondering how come the heater don't get any hotter. And without any heat at all, out here it's, you know, perfectly, well, should I say balmy.
There's plenty of everything. Plenty of spinach and plenty of zucchini.
What did it feel like when you walked in here in January?
It just feels a whole lot warmer than outside, that's for sure.
Oh, it's a lot of enjoyment and everything, just seeing the food grow. We work in our gardens and everything, and help around the greenhouses and anything to do. So everything is real nice and the people are friendly.
Grow food for people, lets people come and grow their own food. They don't have to waste as much money buying food at the store when they can come and grow their own.
Since 1910 until 1967, I put in on the railroad. I think it's outstanding. I think it's wonderful, and learned about the heat, recording the thermometers. I'm proud to have it in Cheyenne.
I have an outdoor garden, and I have corn and beans and peas and radishes and lettuce, and I really enjoy that too. And I think I'm going to benefit a lot from it. I'm a volunteer, and we get vegetables for our pay, and they're the best vegetables I ever ate.
And the price of meat and everything, why, it's very good to be able to have these vegetables. So I think it's wonderful. And just as long as I can, I'd like to keep us staying out here.
Just lots of friendly people, as you know, kids and grown-ups and grown-er and what have you, but they're all just like one big happy family when we're at the greenhouse. I have to see it to believe it, really. And this is what I usually tell everybody. They said, what do you do? And I said, well, we grow things.
The Cheyenne Community Solar Greenhouse, sponsored by Community Action of Laramie County, is the first large-scale community commercial greenhouse in the United States. From the early to mid-1970s, Community Action of Laramie County Incorporated was involved with nutritional advocacy and ran a low-income weatherization program. This included the construction of simple solar heaters. But it was clear that low-income people needed more than these partial solutions. They required a program that could help end the cycle of dependency. There was a need to demonstrate to the community a more economically self-sufficient path that could create greater independence. In 1976, a community action summer program involving young people was the first step toward a solution. Gary Garber, who coordinated the construction, explains.
What gave us the idea for the big greenhouse was we got involved with the construction of 3 smaller greenhouses as a summer youth employment project, and there was 15 of them. They were juvenile offenders. They actually designed and built the greenhouses. These were 16 by 20 feet. The success of that project is what really got us thinking about doing something on a much larger scale. We started off with very little funding and not much hope of getting more funding. That was the main reason for the 3 sections. We were going to do it a section at a time, and we decided just to go for it when we began construction. We did run out of money several times, but we were able to generate some within the county and from other sources. The original grant came from Community Services Administration. With that money, we did our planning session in December of 1976. We involved about 30 people, and out of that came our initial plan. Then we spent the winter looking for a site.
As a result of the initial workshop, there was a lot of community interest in it, and we identified one particular household that felt it was a worthwhile enough project that they would allow the use of their land in order to see it become reality. It was a very attractive project, and I think one of the things that contributed to that is that nobody in the country had attempted it before. And we were convinced that we could do it.
Again, Gary Garber.
We hired 2 construction foremen and took off in May of 1977 building it. The only people who had any background in construction were our 2 supervisors. The rest of the crew was totally unskilled in carpentry. Most people didn't even believe we'd ever get it built. We'd take tours of people out there while the construction was going on. They'd see all these old ladies and little kids and everybody out there trying to build this big structure, and they'd just kind of laugh and pat us on the back, you know, and go away. And I'm sure they thought they'd never see a building there. And it's real nice when you see these people go back now and see all this food growing in this greenhouse. Some of the volunteers at the project were really incredible. The plumber was a 57-year-old lady who came out and spent many 12 and 16-hour days hooking in the plumbing, which included our gray water recovery.
Contractor for construction, Glenn Vossler.
A little 16-year-old girl and myself, we got up on the high scaffold and put the first rafters up. There's nothing up there except the top of the rafter to hang on to. And none of the boys could do it but this little 16-year-old girl. And she didn't seem to be afraid. I did it, but I was afraid. But she didn't seem to be afraid of it.
The electrician work was supervised by an electrician who, luckily for us, was off of his job because of a leg injury. And he came out and not only told us where to put the wires, but he actually was able to hold them into place with his crutch. Well, the roof was also done out of economic necessity. We acquired a bunch of shingles that didn't match. They weren't even the same brands, and we needed to cover the roof, so we got the shingles. We put together a weekend roofing party, and we spent 2 days out there putting on these shingles, and a local beer distributor who sympathized with our efforts brought out 6 cases of beer for us, and that probably helps account for the patchwork pattern that we came up with.
Once again, Glenn Vossler.
On the insulation, we've got 6 inches in the outside wall. We've got about 10 inches in the ceiling blown in insulation. Then we've got 2-inch styrofoam clear on the foundation, clear to the bottom of the foundation. And this is to keep the ground temperature, which is usually about 50, so that it won't cool the foundation down.
Building the greenhouse was really a big job, and not having anywhere to go for advice made it even that much more difficult. But after it was built, we realized any community with a little foresight and a little dedication can go out and do the same project with very little, if any, technical assistance. It's just basic, simple construction. The only difference between it and an attached greenhouse is the size, and the fact that we build it with an entirely unskilled labor force, I think, says it all.
Besides seeing a food-producing botanical garden, thousands of people who visit the Cheyenne Community Solar Greenhouse each year can experience the principles of passive solar energy in action.
It's really not too cold in there. Never nothing frozen, is it?
It's something different than any place you are. Part of the time, you'd be glad for a sweater, but for the most part, you'll shed your sweater. Even when we have our cold winter storms, it's still warm in here.
The solar greenhouse is a 3-sectioned, 5,000 square foot, passively heated structure. Solar heat is collected and stored in over 200 55-gallon oil drums containing water and painted black. Thermally, the greenhouse performs very well under record cold and cloudy conditions. Cheyenne is known for its cold winters and constant strong winds. The greenhouse has never required backup heating, but has emergency wood-burning stoves in place. The inside temperatures rarely get below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and a wide variety of crops are grown year-round. There are many rewards for those involved. Besides providing hundreds of pounds of food for low-income and senior volunteers, each year more than a ton of produce is donated to local feeding programs such as Meals on Wheels.
I'm still impressed every time I go in that greenhouse and see all the food growing and all the volunteers in there, and it's just a totally different atmosphere from walking in off a cold prairie into a tropical paradise.
The solar greenhouse originally was to serve only senior citizens on fixed incomes by providing nutritious food, meaningful work, and the opportunity to interact with others.
It feels like I'm doing something worthwhile, and I've got a garden. I enjoy that. In the greenhouse, I've learned a lot of things about plants I never knew before, and I enjoy looking at them and watch them grow as I come in every week. I like the foods like spinach and things. There's usually something in season here.
I cook with a lot of herbs because that's nature's own food. Because it comes right out of the ground, it's fresh.
To be out here in the wintertime is really nice because you get to see the flowers and it just sort of makes the summer out of winter.
It is good for the elderly people because you take these people, they stay in these nursing homes and they just get to see one another and you soon get tired of it. And out here, it's this open air, this fresh air is so good for everybody. You get to meet so many nice people. And they get to talk over the various things, and what one doesn't know about the garden, the other one can tell them.
It's fun, it's rewarding. The prices of vegetables and stores are too high, and I like being around elderly people. And they're out there in the community, and we can learn a lot from them. And instead of reading books and reading magazines about it, when I'm out here, when I'm with the elderly people, all they say, oh, you can eat this, you can eat that. And I go, oh, really? Then, like today, Nettie taught me how to use the beet tops. She just fries it.
The solar greenhouse has expanded beyond the exclusive involvement of older members of the community. In addition to the involvement of old people, young people can gain valuable work experience through a high school work program and the summer program for economically disadvantaged youths. Also, youth offenders can choose greenhouse work and service to the community as an alternative to court fines.
I was working on a solar hot water heater, and I just think it saves more money than paying for hot water when the sun could heat your water for you. If I wasn't working out here this summer, I'd probably be playing basketball, wasting my time, sleeping, kicking back.
I would be watching soap operas and all that kind of stuff at home.
Soap operas?
Yes, General Hospital.
The handicapped have a deep involvement in the solar greenhouse through job training and horticultural therapy programs. Chester E. Johnson, Vocational Adjustment Specialist for Goodwill of Wyoming Incorporated, talks about the impact of community greenhouse work on the disabled.
The solar greenhouse has meant much to the Goodwill of Wyoming rehabilitation program. We have been able to have our handicaps work at the greenhouse in a training capacity, and we have seen marvelous results. We have had several who have been working out there, been trained so well that they have gone on to achieve other employment in a related capacity. And we're real pleased at the progress that has been made because they relate the growth of plants to their own growth. And I think that this is great therapy. They come with the feeling that they are inferior to other people. And when you get them to associating with others who do not have these handicaps, well, it always gives them a greater motivation.
The handicapped feel wanted. They help a lot of, well, we all help one another, whether we're handicapped or not. I'm handicapped in a way I don't know much of gardening, so it really doesn't matter if we're all handicapped.
They have a spectrum, a wide spectrum of people here that they can work with at the greenhouse, and this is real good, and they are accepted. It is good for them. It's good therapy for them, as well as motivation to be accepted in this sense.
It makes them feel that they're needed and that they can do something in life worthwhile.
It is not just the horticultural therapy that creates self-esteem and inner growth. The magic of the greenhouse begins when people of all ages, backgrounds, and experiences come together, helping one another and themselves. Shane Smith, horticulturalist and director of the Cheyenne Community Solar Greenhouse since its inception.
We've really stratified our society, and we're trying to make an effort here to bring it back together again, where all the different age groups and handicap and kids in trouble can all deal with each other, and you find a lot of solutions that you wouldn't find in any other circumstance.
A lot of the social scientists in this country are approaching us now, and they feel that there's a very strong social atmosphere that needs to be investigated or studied there, because they think it has the contributing factors, whatever those might be, to resolving a lot of the social ills of this country in regard to lifestyle and behavior patterns.
24 community garden plots, each 10 by 30 feet, surround the greenhouse. Here, low-income people who lack space can grow food during summer months.
Those cucumbers were so small when we left. Just in a week here, they're blooming.
2 sacks like that for your full Sunday and put them in the freezer. How much know what I'm going to do with all my corn? I think that's a hint.
But I have the best garden off here. I love cabbage. Ooh, that cabbage. Oh, yeah. Sweet.
I'll tell you one thing, those beans turned out nice. That's on this side. You know, they were the yellow ones.
I must have started out here 3 or 4 years ago. Well, I come out for the health reasons, the sunshine and exercise keeps me in better health. Come out for the enjoyment. I watch the plants grow and talk with the people, and I come out for the information. The overseers are real kind to answer your questions and tell you things that I wouldn't learn otherwise. But I do answer a lot of questions when I'm out here, and sometimes the children working there are very interested in what the plant is and what it's good for and how you cook it.
Volunteers learn that solar greenhouse crops have special needs.
I learned quite a bit during the winter time if I can come out here when the roads are good, because I never had worked in greenhouses before. You have to know what you're doing. There's quite a bit difference between direct sunlight and what you have in the greenhouse, and then the steady heat that you have in the greenhouse makes a lot of difference.
A new and different environment is created within a 100% solar-heated greenhouse. Since it was the nation's first large-scale solar greenhouse, many new horticultural techniques have been developed. Shane Smith explains.
And we found we've been able to double and triple our yields just applying a lot of what we've developed here at this greenhouse. There's some things that you don't realize when you see food production in a solar greenhouse, that you have to schedule these plants much differently than the outside garden. Watering is different. We're growing different types of crops, different varieties that often grow straight up and down rather than sprawl out to utilize the vertical space. And then, of course, if we want to get any fruits, we have to pollinate them by hand because the greenhouse does not have near enough pollinating insects to ensure proper fruit set. So this is a job that is commonly done by volunteers in the greenhouse.
I learned about the squash, the cucumbers.
What were you doing?
Shall we say breeding them?
We have a wild biology going on in here. We kind of look at it as if it were just a biological island surrounded by snow and wind on 4 sides.
Even the greenhouse crops are different in the summer and the winter crops, but of course there are some crops which Wyoming doesn't have a season for outside at all, and the greenhouse will grow them.
Traditionally and historically, greenhouse production has always altered the environment to fit the plant's needs, so that if the plant required warm temperatures, they turned up the heat. In the solar greenhouse, we instead try to select and grow and schedule the plants to fit into the environment that the solar greenhouse creates. This means we're starting out with a whole new type of horticultural technique. It also means that the solar greenhouse can now be a much more efficient producer with a lot less energy.
Because the community solar greenhouse is for people, new cultural techniques have been developed to deal with pests and the problems associated with using poisons.
The trouble with spraying poisons in a community greenhouse is that you can't consume the food for a number of days until the poisonous residue is at a safe level. And also you must evacuate the greenhouse every time you spray. We have all different types of people coming into the greenhouse, from elderly to very young children. So a poison type of pest control really doesn't lend itself to a community operation. Instead, we practice biological pest control. That's where you use beneficial insects to control the harmful ones. The beneficial predators and parasites keep pest populations in check. Many are in better control this way than what we could be doing with poisons, but we have none of the problems associated with using chemicals. A lot of the common greenhouse pests are very resistant to most of the poisons, which won't happen using biological pest controls. It does take a bit more involvement on the part of the volunteers and operators, unlike chemicals which require no understanding of biology and the life cycles that the pests go through.
I sure love the flowers. They're so pretty. I pick all the carnations and snapdragons and such flowers so all the other people can take what they wish of them. And they're always taken, so I guess they love them as much as I do.
Besides being pretty to look at, the flowers serve another important purpose. The nectar and pollen within the flowers serve as a backup food source for the beneficial insects such as ladybugs, lacewing flies, and the very, very small parasitic wasps. So the flowers are important at maintaining the populations of our beneficial insects inside the greenhouse.
Never swat a fly, he may have another fly. He may sit with her inside the way I do with you. Never harm a flea, he may have a favorite she, that he bounces on his knee the way I do with you. Don't step on an ant in the middle of a plant. You may want to, but he can't the way I do with you.
Food production is a viable alternative, especially for communities such as this one, where 95% of all produce is shipped into the community rather than being grown locally. It has the necessary ingredients of creating a new employment area, whereas people that maybe lack skills in other areas could very easily develop these skills and become competitive. And in fact, there's all of the potentials of setting up cooperatives, whereas they're community-based, community-owned, and every community can benefit from the technology that we've been experimenting with. There's some form of solar energy that can be applied to every community.
In an effort to increase aid to the community, other projects which differ from usual greenhouse operations are sponsored. A beekeeping demonstration at the greenhouse site trains low-income people in honey production. The bees also provide pollination for the outdoor gardens.
See this guy here?
Yeah,
See how much bigger he is than the others?
Yeah.
That's a drone. That's the male, okay? All these others are female, okay? And then there's a real big one that's a little different shaped, and that's the queen.
The Community Solar Greenhouse sponsors 2 VISTA volunteers, Volunteers in Service to America, through the Action Agency. VISTA volunteers have helped organize a greenhouse-sponsored farmers market held annually in a local park, and have coordinated the construction of the nation's first large-scale community root cellar within the greenhouse. VISTA volunteer Greg Carlson.
The greenhouse is sponsoring the farmers market because it follows our ideals of self-sufficiency for low-income people, in that they can get their food without having to go through the big supermarket chains. The community root cellar was the first of its kind, and it was being used by the greenhouse, its volunteers, and area feeding programs to store excess produce. A community root cellar is ideal because root crops do best in the short, cold summers in Cheyenne.
To help the public overcome the limitations of Cheyenne's short growing season due to its high altitude on the plains, the solar greenhouse offers a cold frame season extender demonstration. In workshops, greenhouse staff members teach construction and planting techniques for low-cost structures and small geodesic domes, which add 5 months to the local growing season. 1/3 of the greenhouse is a commercial operation. To supplement the solar greenhouse operating budget, houseplants, bedding plants, cut flowers, and plant growing accessories are sold in a volunteer-staffed retail store.
As a result of the need, we've instituted a national training center where people now can come to this community and learn the technologies that are involved with this and understand the pains and the frustrations and also the benefits, so that other people in other communities will be able to implement similar type projects
You have a chance to grow your own variety of whatever it is you want out here. And you also get to work with people that know about other plants, and you can learn things from them.
I like gardens.
Yeah.
I do. You know, I always have liked gardens. But one way I get a kick out of because they look nice, and another way you get something to eat from them.
The amount of food, the quality of food that comes out of the greenhouse is not only helping people in their day-to-day diets, but it's also demonstrating to them that they can become self-sufficient on their own levels.
Well, I think this fresh vegetable is so much better than buying canned food because you don't know how long it's been in that can. You just don't know. And this fresh food, it has more vitamin.
We do grow a wide variety of vegetables rather than just concentrating on a few. And the reason we do that is to supply a wide variety of nutrition for the people that consume the food.
Then you get your vitamins out of this green vegetables.
Well, I think the exercise out here in the garden's lots more fun than just walking around the block to get a little sun exercise.
I was raised on a farm, and it's just like life to me.
I think it's the nicest thing that ever happened in this county. It gives these older folks something to do in their spare time if they want to do something and get a little to eat out of it.
I'd have to work, or they'd have to feed me out of the relief. Can't starve me to death. I was $1,000 in debt, and Mom's tombstone all paid for, the graves is all paid for.
All you gotta do is pay for your food.
That's about all.
I like the solar greenhouse because you can get some food from your garden.
The advice I would give to people who want to try similar projects is don't give up and don't let someone tell you that it can't be done, because it can be.
When I was a little kid, I said I'd like to live in a greenhouse.
They grow things at the Cheyenne Community Solar Greenhouse. They grow fresh, nutritious vegetables, knowledge and skills to understand solar energies and food gardening, confidence and self-esteem, independence, new technologies, and the spirit of friendship and community involvement.
I enjoy everything here. All the work that I'm doing, I really enjoy it. Watering the plants, digging there for the water sprinklers, working outside, working out there with the kids, hauling stuff, hay or whatever, manure. I enjoy that.
What did you take home?
I took 2 tomatoes.
Yeah.
I ate one, my wife ate the other one.
Now where are they?
This has been a presentation of Community Action of Laramie County. We Grow Things was created by Shane Smith. Special technical assistance was provided by Douglas Freed. I'm Ann Fry. Copyright 1980.